Hello, Sotheby's International Realty Ninjas. Welcome to our Ninja Live exclusive. Every Thursday at this time, we host an authentic conversation with an industry leader. We're so grateful for all of you that are joining us today. And we're grateful that you're here in our group. We have over 2,100 Sotheby's International Realty Ninjas. Congratulations. And here in our group, we like to talk all things ninja and all things Sotheby's International Realty. So we're thrilled to have you with us today. I woke up with a lot of gratitudes today, but one of them was unique. And my gratitude this morning was all about smiles. I was thinking about today, and I was thinking about our conversation that we're going to have. But I started picturing the smile of our guest. And he's got an infectious smile, and we're just so thrilled that he's going to be with us today. And I'm excited to introduce to you Chris Klug, who is a broker owner of Aspen, Snowmass, Sotheby's International Realty. And guiding the conversation today is going to be Christine Newell, our very own ninja. My name is Melanie Frank, and I'm excited to bring both of them to you right now. And Chris, welcome. Christine, welcome. We're thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for being here. And Chris, I also need to mention that you are a ninja. In fact, I had the honors of being able to come to your ninja installation in Aspen, Colorado. It was so beautiful and such a wonderful experience, and we're grateful for you both today. So with that, Christine, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome.
Melanie, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. We really appreciate such an amazing introduction. So, Chris, we are so excited to talk to you today. I mean, you really embody everything that I'm about, that this group is about. Number one, being a rock star owner and agent with Sotheby's International Realty, and also being a champion, an Olympic champion, and a ninja. So, I mean, it's incredible. So we're so excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you very much, Christine. And thanks to Melanie for the nice introduction. I got to say, she did an awesome job with our installation last fall in Aspen with our 185 Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's International Realty brokers. I was so inspired by the installation. I've read Larry's book and really enjoyed the 3 days we had together with Melanie and thought she did a fantastic job. So very grateful for that.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of the incredible things that you've done, including your snowboarding accomplishments, which are amazing. So the fact that you're a 3-time Winter Games participant, a bronze medalist in the Salt Lake City 2002, 11-time U.S. national champion, 20-year veteran of the Snowboard World Cup, and a 5-time World Cup champion. But this is what I found was very interesting. This next fact, which I want to talk about, because Chris, I had seen you talk at one of the G&Es a few years ago, and I get your emails, which are really incredible email blasts about your area that I love. You do such a terrific job.
Thank you.
And so I've always definitely admired you and everything that you're doing. And then once we asked you to speak, I started digging a little deeper into your story. And what's incredible to me is you're also the first and only athlete to compete and win a medal following an organ transplant. So I did not know that about your story. And I think that that is really incredible. So I wanted to acknowledge that, but I thought it'd be fun to start at the beginning. You started very young in snowboarding. And you know, what is it about snowboarding that resonated with you? And how did you get on that path of being an Olympian?
You know, Christine, I fell in love with it really early on. I was a skateboarder as a kid and was on the ski team. My mom had signed me up for the ski team and really enjoyed that, but was very passionate about skateboarding in the summertime. And I saw the very first snowboards and I said, that's skateboarding on snow. I got to try it. And as soon as I did, I was immediately hooked, and that's all I wanted to do. And I just, you know, I loved it. And so it came easy, never felt like work, never felt like training. And when the first few snowboard events popped up, competitions, I said, well, I should give it a try. I started as early as anyone and I should try my hand. And I did okay. I met with some early success, but most importantly, I really enjoyed it and wanted to do more. And I think that's so important for me. You and I chatted yesterday. in preparation for our conversation today. And I think anything that I'm enjoying and I'm having fun at, I do pretty well. And that's kind of with my real estate business right now, and with my snowboarding career, I love doing it. So it didn't feel like work. And right now I really enjoy my real estate business. It's more challenging with what's going on in the world, but I'm having a lot of fun. I enjoy the relationships. I enjoy the strategy behind the marketing and the creativity and positioning ourselves and telling the Aspen Snowmass story and frankly, my story. And so it's been a lot of fun. And I think I play a lot on my perspective as an organ transplant recipient and transplant community member, and as an Olympian and professional athlete of 20 years. When somebody has questions about some of the other resort communities, I can speak intelligently about that because I've snowboarded at most all of the great resorts around the world, and that's really helpful. But I will say that it was an awesome ride. I got to do what I love to do for 20 plus years, participate in 3 Olympic Games and represent our country and travel all over the world on my snowboard. And it was an incredible experience, a great ride, and made that much more special by almost 20 years ago, after 6 years on a transplant waiting list, getting a second chance at life and a return to what I love to do in 2002 at the Salt Lake City Olympics, and again in 2010. And after 20 years, I was excited to return home to Aspen and start a family and really build my business.
So let me ask you a question. In Ninja, we spend a lot of time, especially the first day of installation, and we talk about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You are a champion. What does it take to become a champion in real estate, and what type of mindset do you really need to have to be successful?
Well, I think it takes a few things, and certainly consistency, having a system, having a program that you're doing regularly. And for me, when I was competing, one of the things I loved about snowboarding was it's not basketball, not to take away from basketball or sports where the environment is a little bit more controlled. I love those sports as well, but you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. And so every time you go out there, the snow conditions are different. The course may be different. The snow's different. Things are constantly changing and evolving. And so how do you perform at a high level when the environment is changing and maybe you're changing? Maybe it's one thing to win and to perform at a high level and step onto the top of the podium when you're in the zone, when you're in a flow state and everything's going smoothly. But it's even more impressive or a greater accomplishment for yourself and your team when you can perform at a high level when you're sick or you're injured or you're not 100% or you're not in a flow state. And so what I think for me it took as an athlete was a consistent regimen of, okay, here's how I like to prepare before a training day. And I would oftentimes make my training, with training, you want to emulate it as much as you can in a race environment or a real competition environment. So we would oftentimes put money on the line in training. We would tune our snowboards. We would wear the same stuff. We'd do the same approach. So I would start the morning with eating the meal that I would eat on a race day. And then I would go up the lift and I would do my same calisthenics regimen, warm up my hips, warm up my low back, warm up my shoulders, do my squats, do all these different exercises to get my motor skills prepared and ready and warmed up, to get my balance, to get my mindset ready. Then I would do a couple basic drills as I was riding down the hill. Then I would inspect the course or inspect the terrain. And then when I jump in that start gate, it's go time. I'm approaching it like there's a countdown and I'm in the Olympic starting gate or World Cup starting gate, because otherwise you're just sort of out there training, going through the motions. You're not really emulating a real race environment or a real competition setting. And so how does that equate to being a professional salesperson? I think it's the same thing where you practice your listing presentation on your wife. You practice it in front of the mirror. You practice it on your parents or your kids, so that when you're in front of live fire, this is old hat for you. You know it. You've practiced it. Nothing is harder than giving a speech to your wife or your kids or those that you care about the most. So I would really encourage, have a system and practice it, implement it so that when you do step into the starting gate and it's go time, the race or competition is on, your training has been so detailed and so focused on live fire that when you step into that environment, no problem. You've been doing it all along.
I love that. And I love just talking about the morning routine, even like eating the same thing. And I do feel like, you know, during the week, I have my morning routine and I notice I perform much better, you know, when I have my morning routine, and there's something to be said about that routine and the practice. I 100% agree with the practice. That's a great tip for our ninjas. So let's just talk a little bit, if this is okay with you, to talk a little bit about your transplant, because, you know, I was thinking a lot about what that must have been like. You know, you're this amazing athlete, your body is, you know, performing every day, and, you know, and then obviously having that medical condition, and waiting, right? What was that whole experience like, and what lessons do you think that you know, you learned from that?
The recovery was easy compared to what I call the waiting game. And waiting for a solid organ transplant is very scary. It's very precarious. Your life is put on hold. You don't know what lies ahead in your future. And typically when you have an orthopedic injury, which, knock on wood, I've had plenty in my career, I always look at those as the pre-qualifiers for the main event, the liver transplant. But when you have an orthopedic injury or we get sick, we go to the doctor, you get an x-ray, you do physical therapy, you do whatever is necessary to overcome that. With an organ transplant, you're kind of hanging out, you're hoping and you're praying for that call and that second chance, and knowing at what expense that comes to another family and the tragedy that they may be enduring. And so it's a very challenging thing to wrap your head around. I waited for almost 6 years for a new liver and got that call July 28th of 2000, almost 20 years ago. And my health was really deteriorating and going downhill. I'd lost about 35, 40 pounds and wasn't doing the activities that I was accustomed to doing and playing as hard as I like to play. I was really hanging out and hoping and praying for that second chance. And I did make a commitment. I said, if I get through this, I'm going to do everything in my power to give back and help the 112,000 people that are going through the same thing I did almost 20 years ago. And that's what we started the Klug Foundation in 2003 and host about 100 events nationwide promoting organ and tissue donation awareness and sharing the facts and information so that everybody can have that conversation and they're armed with the facts and the right information. So I'm really proud of that. But I'll say, Christine, that as scary as it was being on a waiting list for 6 years and about 3 months at a more critical stage, I wouldn't trade it in for anything. And it sounds so cliche, but after I had my transplant, I had a miraculous recovery. I was out of the hospital 4 days later. I was back on my snowboard 7 weeks later, snowboarding in Mount Hood on the Palmer Snowfield. And ironically, that season I had my best competition season ever, a season in which I literally got cut in half. I had 36 staples from my sternum to my right oblique and looked like a great white, took a big bite out of the middle of me. I had my best competition season ever. And it's because I realized how fortunate I was to be out there doing what I love to do again. I mean, I was on death's doorstep just a few months earlier, and now I had a new lease on life. And it truly made me realize what's important in life. And that's the part that sounds so cliche, but to me, it's my friends, it's my family, it's my faith, it's my quality of life and the environment that I live in, and being able to recreate and do the things that I love to do. And so for me, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, as scary as it was. And I still take anti-rejection drugs morning and night that keep me from rejecting my organ, makes me a little bit immunosuppressed and a little more vulnerable, I suppose, with what's happening in the world. But I'm being prudent and trying to stay healthy and be smart. But at the same time, I'm still living my life and enjoying every day, because I've had that perspective of tomorrow not being a guarantee. So grateful, very grateful to still be here. And it's really interesting to look back 20 years ago and having my transplant almost 20 years ago and think, part of it feels like it never happened because I'm so healthy and I can do anything I want to do. I'm a little careful on drinking too much and partying and just listen to my body and and taking care of my health. But at the same time, there's nothing I can't do, and I'm healthier and stronger than ever. And so it feels like it never happened. But once you've stood on death's doorstep and gotten a new lease on life, you never forget that. And obviously honor my donor and my donor family every chance that I get. And they're the real gold medalists of this whole experience.
You know, Chris, one of the things I love about your story is after you got your transplant, how then you continued to compete. I mean, for a lot of people, they would have just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to just be safe and on the couch, right? But no, you got back out there, and, you know, and that's when you won the medal. So, I mean, that is just so incredible to me. It's such an inspiration. And I love when we were talking the other day, you said to me, you know, look, I don't give up. I never give up. And I thought that was such an amazing mindset to have. So let's talk a little bit about Ninja, and I would love to get into some of your key takeaways. And what do you think, like, big takeaway resonated you from Ninja that you're implementing now?
Well, I'd say the biggest one is I've really used this downtime to get more organized. And I know that I've heard Bradley Nelson say this a number of times, that your business is your CRM. And I would take it a step further. I think our business as sales professionals, whether it's real estate or anything, as sales professionals, it's a relationship business. And I think that's probably, to answer your question, the one thing that resonated with me the most is it's a relationship business, and you invest in those relationships, you maintain those relationships. It doesn't take 10,000 contacts in your CRM to have a great career. It takes 50 great ones that they're not going to call anybody but Christine or Melanie or Chris Klug. That you're their person, and they know that because you're always there. You're reminding them on their birthdays. You're reminding them on the anniversary of their purchase or the sale of their home. You're checking in on important times. You're also sharing you're bringing value to the relationship at every chance that you get. And that's what it's all about is, yeah, Christine's a great person. She's a cool gal. And yeah, I like her, but she doesn't really bring value to letting me know what's happening in my neighborhood, or she doesn't. I think it's important as realtors that we're constantly adding value. Like, hey, I just wanted to update you that here's what's happening with the COVID-19 situation in our community. The restaurants are starting to open up. The hotels are going to be at 50% occupancy for this summer, but they're starting to open their doors. You can now gather in groups of 50, whatever it is, you know, bringing value and bringing importance and value to that relationship all the time. I want to share with you, there's, you know, I got a chance to speak professionally for many, many years through my snowboarding career. It's how I funded my Olympic dreams. And it was so much fun. I got to speak to corporate groups all over the country. But the neatest thing was I got to go to transplant centers and to hospitals and speak with the staff, speak with the doctors, and speak with patients that went through the same thing I did almost 20 years ago. And after I told my story of snowboarding for 20 years and participating in 3 Olympics and my experience on a transplant waiting list and being diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that caused my liver disease, and then bouncing back from that, I love wrapping it up with 3 lessons that I learned in my two great races. The first race is my race for my life and my experience on a transplant waiting list and getting a solid organ transplant. And the second race is participating in 3 Olympic Games and racing my snowboard for 20 years all over the world. And I want to share those lessons with you because I think it's so pertinent to what Larry has created and what Melanie shared with our team. And I think what the essence of Ninja is all about for me, and so many parallels between the book of Ninja selling and the entire platform. So the first lesson for me is something that was taught really early on by my father. I was at Stratton Mountain, Vermont, and it was legendary East Coast boilerplate ice. I was a kid from Colorado, used to soft snow, and I was out of my element. I couldn't buy a turn. And my dad looked at me, and he'd never been on a snowboard in his life, and he said, "Chris, plan your race and race your plan." And I said, "Dad, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but whatever. I can't turn right now, so thanks a lot." And it took me a while to realize what he was talking about. And again, it sounds cliche, like, oh, he's talking about visualization in sports. Yes, I am, but I'm talking about visualization in life. And it was so poignant for me when Melanie talked about you're a manifestation of your thoughts and your ideas. And isn't that what the gratitudes and the affirmations in the morning are all about? And I catch my kids doing this all the time. We were surfing yesterday. We're on vacation. Don't tell anybody. We were surfing yesterday. My son's like, I can't do that, Dad. I said, yes, you can. You set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. So what my dad was saying is plan your race, race your plan. You got to see it to make it happen. And it's not just in the sports arena. It was when I was lying on 7 West on the recovery floor at University Hospital. I saw myself at Palmer Snowfield at Mount Hood, snowboarding again with my teammates and my friends. And 7 weeks later, I was doing that. And I saw myself, I got up that morning on February 14th, 2002, and I said, today is my day. I'm going to win an Olympic medal. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind. And it's the same thing when I bought my house. I got a little stretched, and I took a huge step from a deed-restricted $600,000 townhouse in Aspen to a single-family home in Snowmass Village. And I said, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to pull this off, but there is no alternative. And I set my mind to it, and I pulled it off and paid everybody off within a year. And we have a single-family home free and clear now. And there's just been times in my life where it was so clear, and I said, I'm setting my mind to it, and I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to figure it out. So plan your race, race your plan. Sorry, I got excited on that one. The second one is the famous Winston Churchill quote of never, never, never give in. And again, sounds cliche, but in this last few months, just persistence pays off. Digging your heels in and showing some grit and some determination and refusing to quit, refusing to give up. And for me, as a new owner of Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's, that meant, how do we keep our 14 offices, our 185 brokers employed and busy and engaged? And how do we keep our doors open? How do we navigate through what is clearly a very challenging time in real estate? And some resort markets are doing a lot better. Some suburban markets are doing a lot better than many of our major metro feeder markets. And there could actually be some upside for some of the resort markets. That being said, I think the reverberations of this are going to be tough. So never, never, never give in. And I love the Marine motto of improvise, adapt, and overcome. Do what it takes. If you're in the biggest race of your life and Olympic medal's on the line and you break a 50-cent buckle on your boot, grab the duct tape and wrap the duct tape around it if you have to. That's how I won my Olympic medal. And we all need a little duct tape in our worlds. I'm convinced that it holds the world together. The last lesson I'll leave you with in my 2 great races is that none of us succeed alone. And I think that's also really one of the foundations of Ninja, if you ask me, is we're all in this together. And that's a cliche that we've heard so much the last few months with this global pandemic. But I can tell you that you do not win an Olympic medal without a great team, and you do not get through an organ transplant without a great team behind you. And I think you're not successful and a top salesperson without a great team, a great person that helps you with marketing and communications and learning the market and the contracts and all the things that this business requires to have proficiency in. You need a great team behind you to help you get there.
That is amazing. There's so many just amazing things that you said. I'm taking notes and so inspiring. So I have to ask you, did you really put duct tape on your boot to win the medal? Did that really
That's
happen?
how I won my Olympic medal, duct tape. And a month later, Tyco Duct Tape sponsored me and sent 50 cases of industrial duct tape to my house in Aspen. It barricaded my wife into the house. There was so much duct tape. And they were in industrial cases. She couldn't even lift them up. It was hysterical.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I love that. That is great. So when you were talking about Ninja, I love how you also reminded everyone how the CRM is really, that's your business, your CRM. And I know you said you spent a lot of time in the past, few months working on that, dialing it in. And can you share with everybody a little bit about this incredible email blast that you do? Because I get it, and I just think it's great. It's very personalized, and you have a lot of information about what's happening in your community, so you're providing that value. So if you could let everyone know, like, what's in it, and how do you accomplish that, and any success stories that you've had with it?
Well, first of all, let's dive into the CRM. I have was a former Contactually subscriber, and I've been on MailChimp as my eBlast program for 8-9 years. And I have been talking about making the move to close for months. And I participated in a market leaders group, and everybody was advocating, how great the program is, and it makes Contactually look like Fisher Price, and this is so much more robust. This is the program to be on. I knew it was great, but I was just overwhelmed with making the switch. And I said, damn it, we're in the middle of a pandemic. What better time for me to get organized and fully adopt this CRM? So my team and I dove into that. And the first few days I wanted to Frisbee my computer. It was overwhelming. But I did figure out how to link it with iCloud and with all the social media accounts and with ActivePipe. So we made the switch to close as a CRM and ActivePipe as our email eBlast program, and really seeing the beauty of it now. And I'm dedicating an hour every single day to just fine-tuning my contacts and making sure they're perfect. And I love the reminders. Hey, you haven't talked to Melanie in a little while. Send her a note. Or it's Christine's birthday today. And what a great way. And they prepare those emails for you. They make it so easy, and you can add your signature at the bottom. I know this is elementary for many of you, but it's a great program, and it just makes, again, implementing a system into what we're doing every day to make it more efficient and to track. We know, Christine, that a NAR study a few years ago that said 95% of sellers do not use the same broker that they purchase their home with. That's because we do a shitty job communicating and following up as an industry and as sales professionals. And so how do you get from consistently $60 or $85 million a year to north of $100 million every single year? I think it's tightening up our CRMs and staying in touch with our sphere of influence better than anybody else can. And I love the rule of 7, that you have to touch somebody 7 times before they're pulling the trigger, before they're making a buying decision or selling decision. And so what I like to think is, how can I implement those 7 touches? So when somebody arrives in Aspen, everybody's driving now, nobody's flying. But in the old paradigm, when everybody flew into Pickton County, Sardi Field in Aspen Snowmass, boom, Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's owns the airport right there. You'll see my name, you'll see the other brokers in our office's name, and we own the airport there. There is signage everywhere. Then you're waiting for your luggage and you see My Living Aspen magazine or our Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's magazine right there. And that's boom, you get 2 touches in the airport before they ever leave. Maybe they grab the Aspen Times or the Aspen Daily News, one more print opportunity right there, another print medium where they pick it up and they scroll through it. Nobody advertises more in both local papers than Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's. And so maybe before they leave the airport, they have 3 impressions right there. And then they're enjoying their time skiing or snowboarding or hiking or biking in Aspen. And they decide, God, this place is great. I would love to own a condominium here. And next thing you know, they start looking online and our targeted ads are there. And then they're seeing, okay, wow, this broker seems to have some good listings. They go onto my site, they see the social media. So before you know it, in a week or 2 stay in a destination resort, they might have 7 impressions before they ever pick up the phone, before they ever see you. Maybe they go on to one of our syndicated partner websites, a Zillow or a Truly or whatever it is, realtor.com, and they see our listings there. So I think really trying to make sure, we had a great email go out from Jennifer, our broker performance specialist the other day, that said, make sure your profiles are dialed in. Check the profiles on all of these different syndicated partner websites. Make sure it's the information. Make sure that's the impression that you want to be sending out to potential clients.
Wow. No, I think that's great. And I agree 100% with everything that you're doing. What about the particular email I'm thinking of that you sent out? Yeah, which it's very Aspen, but I love it because you personalize it. So what does it take to prepare that, and have you had any success stories from those?
I try to have fun with it. And that's one of the things I share with my team all the time is, not to be vulgar here, but it's not all about just buy our shit. It's let's bring value with every opportunity that we have. let's share some valuable insights. And my marketing director, Ali Dresser, she's lived in Aspen all of her life. My manager with Klug Properties, Dylan Braun, she's been there all of her life. And I say to them, I said, nobody has more valuable insights than the three of us on this community. We live here, we breathe this. This is our passion as well. It's why we live here. Let's make sure that that is being communicated in everything that we're doing. Bring value and share insights and opportunities that if you're sitting in Denver, Dallas, Houston, New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, our major feeder markets, that you wouldn't know right now what trails are open, what the ski conditions are like. And we try to bring it in a really concise, fun, and entertaining way. And it's the same thing with our foundation, with delivering the message of organ and tissue donation. That's a kind of a morbid subject that people don't really want to talk about their own mortality. So how can we focus on the miracle of organ transplantation and donation and what it makes possible if you recycle yourself, if you will, and the gift that you're giving and the impact that you can have even if you're not here, saving 8 lives, improving as many as 50 lives. And so I think that's the same thing with real estate is people aren't just buying an Aspen Snowmass because it's a great investment. Probably makes more sense to maybe not this year, but historically do the S&P 500, and you can do at or around 10% over the last, the history of the S&P. However, Aspen Snowmass has been a great investment, but I think it's more of an investment in quality of life and health and activities and recreational opportunities. And so that's a big part of our communications is showcasing this is also what you're buying is this amazing alpine mountain lifestyle. And so I like to have fun with it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you guys, everybody, watching, you can sign up for the email blast and you can check Chris out on his site. It's a great tool and you guys do a good job with it for sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about success stories from Ninja. Do you have any moments that come to mind, anything that you've used that you learned in Ninja that has really paid off that you might want to share with everyone?
I have been two things. I loved the contacts roulette that Melanie did with us. And I pretty much just took my iPhone, I just went like that through it and clicked on somebody. And it happened to be a client and friend, Michael, who I hadn't talked to in quite some time in New York City. And I reached out to him and I just said, hey, I'm thinking of you. Haven't talked to you in a little while and just wanted to touch base. Called me 2 weeks later and said, I'm coming to town. I want to see some things with you. And we continue to correspond. He hasn't bought anything yet, but he's a very capable Aspen buyer and an influencer. And so I think, again, that goes back to the CRM is how can we really identify those relationships and find a way to stay in touch with them. I would say the other thing for me is I love waking up in the morning and doing the gratitudes. That's something I've always done. And just a great reminder for me that, despite what's maybe happening in the world or in our communities, there are some silver linings in all of this. And for me, the opportunity to spend more quality time with my wife and my kids and those that are most important to me has been so special. And getting some projects done. I've gone totally Marie Kondo on my house and I couldn't find something in my top drawer the other day. And I said, well, the hell with this. I took the drawer, turned it upside down on the floor. And then it still wasn't in there. So I grabbed the next drawer and I turned it upside down. I said, I've been wanting to organize this stupid drawer for weeks or for years, I should say. And so I finally am making some progress, organizing some things. Geez, I'm sorry. Excuse me. So that's been really good. And I love the gratitudes in the morning. I would say the biggest reminder for me is the thank yous. And it's so powerful when you get a handwritten thank you. And if I save that for the afternoon, it's kind of like your workout. I ran early this morning on the beach. And if I wait until the afternoon to go for that run, it's too hot. And I'd really love to have a drink with my wife and do something different. I can find 1,000 different excuses. But if I get up in the morning and boom, I start to implement the system. I do my gratitudes. I do my affirmations. I do a 5-minute meditation. Then I just jump right into my thank yous. And then it's the power hour on my emails and focus, not just going down every single rabbit hole that random emails that I happen to get, but really focused power hour, and then doing my analyses and doing my 10 client calls every single day. So I think some more organization and some more really focus on what I'm doing, being intentional rather than just kind of letting it come at me.
So I love that you mentioned Marie Kondo, because she really taught me how to fold a t-shirt. I was not doing it. So if you've ever
Good, I
watched
need
Marie
more
Kondo
lessons.
fold a t-shirt, yeah, I mean, that's awesome. But when you talked about calling your people every day, making those outreach calls, let me ask you a question. A lot of ninjas start to not want to do that, right? So I work with a lot of agents, I manage a lot of agents, and we talk about actually picking up the phone, you know. So how do you get over that if you feel, well, first of all, do you even feel that hesitation? Because I sense from you, you're a very outgoing person. And then if you do sense a little hesitation, like I don't want to do my calls right now, how do you make yourself do them? How do you commit?
Again, I think having a system or a schedule where you do that seems to work better for me, because I'm a classic procrastinator and I just put it off to the afternoon and I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. I also fall into the trap that one of the few things I learned in high school is how to type really fast. I can type 110 plus words a minute. And so I fall into the trap like, I'll just send him an email, or I'll just send him a quick text. And it's so efficient. I can just bang 10 of these out so quickly and I'm done in 5, 10, 15 minutes. So for me, it's more challenging to pick up the phone. I love to talk. I love to communicate, especially with my friends. And most of my clients are my friends. And I really enjoy catching up with them and finding out what's happening in their lives. But sometimes it's a 5 or 10 or 15-minute conversation versus a 30-second text. And at first I was like, well, I haven't talked to this dude in quite a while. What the heck am I going to say? He's going to say, Chris, where have you been? But you just reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking of you. I just came across your contact and I'm embarrassed. It's been a little while since we've spoken. I just want to check in and see how you and your wife and your kids are and how life in New York is right now. I know it's challenging and just want to let you know I'm thinking of you. The other thing that I do is when I was traveling quite a lot, if you have your CRM so perfectly organized, and I can just put in there Dallas when I'm going down and visiting my friends with Briggs Freeman or doing an event down there, I put Dallas in there. And then I've got all my contacts from Dallas right there. I call every single one of them and just say, hey, Travis, I'm in Dallas. Don't have time to connect while I'm here, but I just wanted to call and see how you guys are doing, let you know I'm thinking of you. I sure hope we'll see you back in Snowmass this summer or Aspen this summer. And that's been really effective for me. Or God forbid there's some kind of a natural disaster. I know there was a storm hitting Charleston yesterday. And I just picked up the phone and just put Charleston in there. And I said, oh, God, I haven't talked to my friend David Downing in a while. So I picked up the phone and said, David, I know there's a storm bearing down on you guys. Hope you're okay. Just want to check in. So again, it goes back to that CRM. Your CRM and your experience is your business. And what a great opportunity to not make it look like you're trying to work your CRM when you're calling somebody, but just say, hey, there's a storm in Charleston. It doesn't sound like it's that bad. And I just wanted to know I was thinking of you. So that's a great tool for me.
Awesome. So as we kind of wind down, I know we've been talking now for quite some time.
You got me excited.
I know, I'm excited too. I need to get my CRM in order here and fold some t-shirts. So a question for you is kind of getting back to two questions. Why did you pick real estate after such an amazing career that you had and all your accomplishments and your public speaking? Why real estate and why Sotheby's International Realty?
I traveled 2+ million miles on United Airlines, lived out of a suitcase for 20+ years, riding my snowboard around the world. And I wanted to be in Aspen, be more part of the community, start a family, and really build a business. I got, this is a funny story. I got drug kicking and screaming into Aspen Snowmass Sotheby's. At the time, it was Morrison Fearwald Real Estate. Wasn't even Sotheby's yet. And my late friend, Gary Albert, who is the genius behind Cabbage Patch Kids, one of my mentors and one of the great marketing minds I've ever met, he said, listen, just go in there and talk to these guys. I said, Gary, I don't want to be a dirt pimp. I don't care about Bert and Ernie, whoever these guys are. I don't want to go do this. It happened to be Craig and Ernie. And I went in there and I sat down with them, kicking and screaming. And I left and I said, damn it, Gary, you're right. Those guys are really cool. And this is probably a great fit. I'll tell you what, I'll get my license. I'll get my feet wet. I'm retiring in 2010 after the next Olympics. So I'll get my license. I'll get my feet wet. If I like it, then I'll consider doing it. One of the great mistakes I think so many professional athletes make is they retire and they scratch their head for a little while and they say, well, now what am I going to do? And Gary prepared me. He was good friends with Ron Jaworski and Doug Collins and grew up in New York City and then settled in New Jersey, just outside of Pennsylvania. And he watched these guys kind of struggle with the transition before Ron Jaworski became a famous announcer and Doug Collins as well, and a great coach and entrepreneur and businessman. But he said, your springboard is before you retire. When you retire, you already want to have a bit of a foundation so you can parlay that into the next step and into your success. And so I committed to getting my license and getting my feet wet and seeing what I thought. And as I jumped into it, I really enjoyed it. And I liked the guys that I work with, and they pretty much said, hey, we've got a desk for you. We'd love to have you whenever you're ready to be here full time. And if not, that's okay too. I said, why don't you try it out, see how you like it? And the more I did it, the more I liked it. And I realized that for me, I'm a sales and marketing person. I love telling the story about a product. I love really accentuating the highlights and trying to showcase that property in its best possible light, or that product in its best possible light. And I realized I'd done that my whole career when I'd gone and knocked on the door at Power Bar or Bolé sunglasses or Aloe Up skincare or you name it, POC helmets and Burton snowboards. So I worked with all of these companies for my entire career. They were the same relationships I had when I started to when I retired in 2010. And so I realized that I'd been knocking on doors, effectively selling myself, if you will, for 20 years. And now I'm selling one of the greatest products in the world in Aspen, Snowmass, Sotheby's in real estate in Aspen and Snowmass. And then, of course, I realized the advantage when I was with Morrison Fierwald, and we purchased the franchise and became Aspen, Snowmass, Sotheby's. I realized really the global reach, the luxury cachet, and the brand recognition of a Sotheby's, and what a game changer for us. So that's kind of my story, how I got into it. And the more I got into it, the more I liked it, the more that I realized that this is really my calling. I love the sales and marketing side of it. And now I'm really enjoying building my team and empowering my team, and in a way that we can bring a better service to our clients and do it in a more professional and I think a more efficient way.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet.
To kind of wrap up, do you want to just talk a little bit about your foundation? I know you run a pretty amazing foundation, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about that for everyone.
Oh, you're awesome for asking about that. Thank you. It's like I said, I made a commitment to myself, to my family, to God. I said, if I get through this organ transplant back in the summer of 2000, I'm gonna do everything I can to give back. And for many, many years, I volunteered for different organ procurement organizations and different nonprofits that advocated organ and tissue donation awareness. And I felt like we could do it in a little different way and bring some value in a different way. And really using the vehicle of action sports and this entree of snowboarding and action sports, saying, hey, these sports and activities are really cool, but this message is really cool too. And we just started as a very small nonprofit with $3,000 out of my pocket to start it. And now it's about a $450,000 a year organization. And as I said, about 100 events nationwide. And it's a lot of fun for me. My involvement is strictly volunteer, always has been from the beginning. We have a full-time executive director and a program director also with the Klug Foundation. And I would encourage anyone that's listening and everyone that I come in contact with to have the conversation. Our organization is all about three things. It's about education, inspiration, and registration. And the way to register are kind of three ways. you can document your decision on your state registry. It's Colorado, donatelifecolorado.org, or whatever state you're in, you can just go to chrisklugfoundation.org. We have a map there. And whether you're from New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Florida or Colorado or wherever it is, you can go onto the state registry and register. But the most important thing is you can designate your organ donation decision on your state registry, but you also need to have that conversation. And so I encourage everyone, sit down at the table and just say, hey, mom, dad, sister, brother, son, daughter, if something happens to me, this is what I want to happen. Let your wishes be known. And if you have questions about it, talk about it, or go on to chrisklugfoundation.org and learn about the myths and the misconceptions and the facts so that you can have that conversation and maybe dispel some of the misinformation.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. I'm going to actually check it out myself and learn more. So thank you for inspiring me.
I'm here because of it.
Yeah. So this has been incredible, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing with our ninjas at Sotheby's International Realty. You are just such an amazing inspiration. And there is a cool quote in Ninja Selling, which reminded me of you, which I want to just share. Ninjas are masters of creating, sending, and receiving good vibrations. And I feel like from the moment I got on the phone with you, I could feel your passion and energy. And you said to me, you said, you know, look, I love what I do. I love it. And you know what? It really shows, and people pick up on that. And so thank you so much for sharing with us today. You are just incredible.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for saying that. Loved being a part of it. And thanks for inviting me.
Chris, it has been, it's been very inspirational. I think everybody can feel that vibe, Christine, that you just shared. And, you know, the power of the smile, you know, it's infectious, and there it is. I love it.
It's permanent though. I can't get rid of it.
It's something you never should. And we should all embrace that, because it is,